The clatter of plates and the hum of the dishwasher filled the small kitchen, but Jada Thompson barely noticed. She was too focused on finishing the last tray of desserts before the dinner rush ended. Her hands moved quickly, but in her rush, a plate slipped. A shard of porcelain hit the floor, and a wave of embarrassment washed over her. Before she could bend down to pick it up, a calm voice interrupted. "Wait, don't touch it." Jada looked up to see a man she hadn't noticed before, tall, sharp-suited, with a presence that seemed to command the entire room without saying a word. He held the broken plate, not with annoyance but with curiosity, and placed it gently aside. "I tried one of these," he said, lifting a forkful of dessert from a nearby tray. His eyes met hers and she felt a jolt she couldn't explain. "This is incredible. Who made it?" I did," Jada stammered, unsure if she should feel proud or mortified. Compliments weren't common for someone in her position. He smiled, a small genuine curve of his lips, and nodded as if he understood more than just her cooking. "You have a talent. You should know it." Her heart skipped. A stranger, yet somehow he made her feel seen. There was something in his quiet intensity that made her stomach twist with nerves and excitement all at once. As the restaurant staff bustled around them, Minho Lee lingered, tasting another bite and watching her reaction. And in that fleeting moment, Jada realized this encounter was more than a compliment. It was the start of something neither of them could yet understand, a connection sparked by a single forkful of dessert. The next morning, Jada couldn't stop thinking about him. The stranger who had tasted her dessert and smiled like she was more than just a dishwasher. She tried to shake it off while scrubbing pans, but every clink of silverware seemed to echo his words, "You have a talent." Her shift passed in a blur, yet as the lunch crowd thinned, the restaurant door chimed and her heart lurched. He was back. Minho Lee. Dressed impeccably, exuding the same quiet confidence, yet today there was a soft warmth in his eyes that caught her off guard. "I couldn't stop thinking about yesterday," he said, voice steady but friendly. "I wanted to know, who makes these?" Jada hesitated, caught between pride and caution. Compliments from him felt different, meaningful, not performative. I do," she said, finally meeting his gaze. He smiled again, just enough to make her chest flutter. "Then I hope you don't mind if I ask about your recipe. I'd love to understand how someone can make something this good." She blinked, surprised. Most people wouldn't care to ask, they'd just eat and forget. But he was different. He was interested genuinely. They talked for a few minutes about ingredients, flavors, even small kitchen mishaps. Laughter eased her nerves and she noticed how patient he was, listening like her words mattered. As he prepared to leave, he handed her a small note, folded neatly. "Keep creating. I'll be back." Jada held it, heart pounding, feeling something new and thrilling, a mix of curiosity and anticipation. Someone had noticed her, truly noticed her, and for the first time in a long while, she allowed herself to hope that this encounter was more than coincidence. A week later, Jada's nerves were a tangled mess. She had received a surprising message. "Would you like to join me for a private tasting? I'd love your opinion." It was from Minho Lee. Her mind raced. Why would a man like him, sharp and commanding, want her opinion? But curiosity outweighed caution. That evening, she found herself stepping into his mansion, marveling quietly at the opulence around her. Minho greeted her with a nod, calm and reassuring, as if sensing her anxiety. The private tasting began in the kitchen, not a showy dining room. Flour dusted the countertops, and the warm scent of fresh-baked desserts mingled with the quiet hum of the appliances. Minho watched her move naturally among the trays, his expression softening with each bite he sampled. "You have an eye for balance," he said thoughtfully. "And patience. It shows in your work." Jada's cheeks warmed. Compliments were one thing, insight was another. She realized he wasn't just curious about the food, he wanted to understand her, see her care and passion firsthand. Their conversation drifted from desserts to small personal stories, childhood memories, favorite flavors, little fears. Minho's walls slowly crumbled as he shared anecdotes with a rare vulnerability, making her laugh more than she had in months. As she turned to grab a whisk, she tripped slightly. Minho was there in an instant, steadying her with a gentle hand. Embarrassment flooded her, but his warm smile softened it. Without thinking, she leaned into a brief hug, a spontaneous gesture of gratitude and comfort. In that fleeting embrace, something shifted. The air between them changed, not just curiosity or admiration, but the unmistakable beginning of trust, a connection neither of them expected but both silently welcomed. After the private tasting, Jada found herself looking forward to seeing Minho more than she expected. Each visit to the restaurant became a small adventure, though she tried not to show it. He was always there, quietly observing, asking questions about her day, and occasionally teasing her in a way that made her laugh despite herself. One afternoon, as the kitchen hummed with activity, Minho leaned casually against the counter. "You ever think about what you'd do if you weren't here?" he asked, curiosity flickering in his dark eyes. Jada paused, wiping her hands on her apron. "I dream about opening a bakery," she admitted softly, almost shyly. "A place where people can taste what I love to make. But it feels impossible sometimes." He studied her for a moment, his expression unreadable, then gave a small, genuine smile. "Impossible doesn't exist for someone who's passionate. I can see it in you." Her heart lifted. For the first time, someone believed in her, not because of her position or what she could do for them, but because of who she was. Days turned into weeks. They shared jokes over spilled sugar, swapped stories while waiting for ovens to preheat, and quietly celebrated small successes. The walls Jada had built around herself began to soften. One evening, after she had successfully perfected a complicated dessert, Minho stepped close and said softly, "You've done well." Without thinking, she leaned in and hugged him, a warm, comforting embrace. It was a hug of gratitude, of recognition, of newfound trust. Minho held her gently, letting the moment linger just long enough for both to feel the depth of connection growing between them. That night, Jada realized that what had begun as curiosity and admiration was blossoming into a genuine friendship, one that neither of them wanted to let go of. The city festival was alive with lights, laughter, and the scent of street food drifting through the warm evening air. Jada felt a mix of nerves and excitement as she walked beside Minho Lee. This wasn't the restaurant, the kitchen, or a carefully curated tasting. It was chaotic, loud, and wonderfully alive. Minho moved beside her with ease, pointing out the best food stalls and teasing her when she hesitated over which game to try first. "You look like you're calculating a math problem," he joked, and Jada laughed, the sound mingling with the festive music. They rode the Ferris wheel, sharing cotton candy and stories from childhood. Jada told him about her first failed attempt at baking a cake, and he admitted his own embarrassing mistakes growing up, the corners of his eyes crinkling in genuine amusement. As the night went on, the small touches became natural, her hand brushing his as they reached for the same prize, shoulders leaning together to fit under a tiny umbrella. Each moment was innocent but charged with a soft energy that neither could ignore. By the end of the festival, they found themselves standing near the fountains, lights reflecting on the water like 1,000 tiny stars. Jada felt a quiet nervousness, a flutter she hadn't expected. Minho looked at her, calm and steady, and smiled. "I had a good time tonight." Before she could answer, she realized she was smiling too, and instinctively they shared a hug, longer this time, a gentle squeeze that spoke of warmth, comfort, and the unspoken understanding that this night was special. Walking back side by side, Jada felt something shift inside her. This connection, the laughter, the shared stories, the soft embrace, was more than she'd ever anticipated. And in that moment, she knew their bond was deepening, slowly but surely, into something that could last forever. Jada had always imagined Minho Lee's life as glamorous, maybe even untouchable, but she wasn't prepared for the glimpse behind the curtain. One evening, he asked her to accompany him on what he called a quick errand. Curiosity won over caution, and she agreed, unaware of how much it would shake her. They arrived at a private, dimly lit office filled with documents and guarded faces. Minho's demeanor shifted immediately, calm but commanding, every movement precise. Jada felt a twinge of fear, a silent reminder that there was a side of him the world never saw. Noticing her unease, Minho placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You're safe," he said softly, his usual intensity softened. "I won't let anything happen to you." Her chest tightened. The contrast between the man in this room and the one in the kitchen or at the festival was stark, yet somehow, it only deepened her curiosity. As he explained the situation, a business matter that required discretion, Jada realized how much weight he carried, the responsibilities no one else could understand. "It must be exhausting," she said quietly. He glanced at her, vulnerability briefly flickering in his eyes. "Sometimes," he admitted. "But moments like this, talking to you, make it bearable." Jada stepped closer instinctively, and he didn't pull away. Instead, she wrapped her arms around him in a gentle hug, a hug of comfort and trust. He returned it, steady and warm, a silent promise that they were both safe in this fleeting, fragile moment. When they finally left, Jada understood something crucial. Their bond was no longer just curiosity or admiration. It was trust, tested, fragile, and growing stronger by the day. And in that trust, she felt the quiet thrill of being seen, truly seen for the first time. The kitchen smelled of sugar and vanilla, the warm glow of the oven light casting soft shadows across the countertops. Jada carefully plated her newest creation, a delicate chocolate tart topped with fresh berries, and felt a nervous flutter in her chest. Tonight, Minho Lee would taste it, and this time it wasn't just a private tasting. He arrived quietly as always, but there was a noticeable anticipation in his eyes. "Smells amazing," he said, voice low and sincere, and Jada's stomach did a little flip. They sat across from each other, the tart between them, sharing small bites and laughter over minor kitchen mishaps. Then, in a pause that seemed to stretch, Minho looked at her directly, his gaze steady and intense. "Jada," he said, soft but firm, "I have to tell you something. It's not just the desserts, it's you. I've been captivated by your passion, your kindness, by who you are." Jada's heart raced. She'd felt it too, but hearing it out loud made the feeling almost overwhelming. I feel the same," she whispered, her hands trembling slightly as she reached for her napkin. He leaned closer, sensing her shyness, and without hesitation, she wrapped her arms around him. This time, the hug was longer, warmer, full of unspoken emotions, trust, admiration, and the tentative spark of love. Minho's hands rested gently on her back, steadying her, grounding the moment. Pulling back slightly, he smiled, the vulnerability in his eyes softening the intensity of his words. "I think this is the start of something real." Jada smiled back, feeling a mixture of joy and relief. The dessert had brought them together, yes, but it was this honesty, this shared truth, that would bind them more than any recipe ever could. Life outside the kitchen wasn't as simple as their private moments. Whispers, curious glances, and the weight of expectation seemed to press down on Jada and Minho from all sides. Friends questioned her about dating a man with a dangerous reputation, while Minho faced business pressures that left him tense and distracted. One evening, after a particularly stressful day, Minho invited Jada to a quiet park near the city. The streetlights flickered softly, reflecting on the wet pavement from a recent drizzle. Jada's chest tightened as she looked at him. He seemed burdened, the weight of his world heavier than ever. "I don't want you to get hurt," she said softly, voice barely above the whisper of the wind. "People will judge, they always do." Minho's expression softened, and he reached out, brushing a stray lock of hair from her face. "I know," he admitted. "And I won't lie, it's not easy. But I can't ignore what I feel for you. Not now, not ever." They stood in silence for a moment, the tension between them palpable. Jada took a deep breath and stepped closer. Minho's hands rested lightly on her shoulders, and she wrapped her arms around him in a hug that was both comforting and protective. It lingered, long enough for both to feel the strength of their connection, to know that despite the outside noise, they could trust each other. Pulling back slightly, Jada smiled, her heart lighter. "Then we face it together," she said. Minho nodded, a quiet determination in his eyes. Together. In that embrace they found reassurance, not just for the present but for the promise of facing the world side by side. Doubts might come, pressures might press, but their bond had grown strong enough to withstand anything. The soft hum of the bakery mixer filled the room as Jada added the final touches to a batch of cupcakes. Today was special, not just for her baking but because Minho Lee was there, watching with a quiet pride that made her heart swell. "You've really done it," he said, voice steady, eyes reflecting genuine admiration. "This place, it feels like you." Jada smiled, warmth spreading through her chest. For months she had dreamed of this moment, and now, with him by her side, it felt real. "Thanks for believing in me," she murmured. Minho reached out, gently brushing a speck of flour from her cheek. The gesture was tender, affectionate, a reminder that their bond had grown far beyond curiosity or admiration. They spent the afternoon together, decorating pastries, laughing over small mistakes, and sharing stories of the past. Each touch, each glance reinforced a quiet truth: they were partners in more ways than one. Later, as friends and a few trusted associates dropped by, Minho made no effort to hide his connection to her. He introduced her with pride, his hand resting lightly on her back. Jada felt a thrill of joy. This acknowledgement was a step forward, a public affirmation of something both private and profound. As the day wound down, Minho pulled her aside. "I'm proud of you. Always," he said softly. Without thinking, she leaned into him for a hug, this time longer and more secure, a hug that spoke of loyalty, trust, and love. He held her close, as if promising that no matter what came next, they would face it together. In that embrace, the world felt lighter, possibilities endless. Their connection was no longer tentative or uncertain. It was solid, unshakable, and full of the quiet magic of two people who had found home in each other. The morning sun spilled golden light across the new bakery, reflecting off the polished counters and glass jars filled with colorful treats. Jada Thompson stepped inside, taking a deep breath. Today wasn't just the opening day, it was the culmination of months of dreams, hard work, and quiet determination. Minho Lee stood near the entrance, impeccably dressed but with a soft smile that warmed her more than any light could. His presence had become a steadying force in her life, a reminder that she wasn't alone in her journey. "You did it," he said simply, his voice full of pride. "This is all you." Jada felt a rush of gratitude and love. "I couldn't have done it without you," she admitted, though she knew he would humbly deny it. They moved through the bakery together, greeting early customers and sharing laughter over flour-smeared aprons. Every smile, every word of encouragement, reminded them of the bond that had grown from a simple dessert tasting to something much deeper. Trust, affection, and the unshakable promise of being there for each other. As the day drew to a close, Minho reached for her hand. "No matter what happens," he said softly, it's forever." Jada smiled, her heart full. She stepped close, wrapping her arms around him in a long, tender hug. He held her gently, grounding her in the moment, sealing the promise that their connection wasn't fleeting, it was permanent, a love built on trust, admiration, and shared dreams. Pulling back, she whispered, "Forever starts here." Minho nodded, their foreheads touching for a brief, perfect second. And in that simple gesture they both knew, this was just the beginning of a lifetime together.